Welcome to Story Chats at Inspy Romance. I'm Elizabeth Madry, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I'm Narelle Atkins.
And I'm Valerie Comer, and I'm being throat punched by a cat.
Judy is over it. She's over it already. So today we are continuing our trip through the southern United States, and we have landed in Florida. So
Sounds lovely on this snowy day.
Right, exactly. What is it about Florida that makes it a great place for romance, do you think? Don't all talk at once.
Well, it's the beaches, it's the hot weather, it's the sunshine, I think of Florida as just being vacation holiday, the place you go to chill out, relax, and lots of outdoorsy stuff happens, and it's summer nearly all year round.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a tourist destination, so you can do some vacation romance type stuff easily enough.
Yeah.
There's lots of retirement villages, so you could do some aging romances as well.
Yeah.
And perpetual summer, and yeah, surrounded on three sides by ocean. Like what's not to love about beach reads, right? There's so much scope. Hey,
Daisy too.
Daisy, here's Cooney.
Yes. Say hello. Do you think you could be friends? No.
Probably not. Probably not.
Probably not.
So yeah, I mean, it just seems like the home of beach and vacation romance.
Yeah.
Just straight up.
Okay.
I mean, other places can have it too, but
Florida owns it. Rinse it out every now and then. Yeah. All right, that's fair. I would agree with that. I think it's probably the summer year round kind of feel thing. Summer. I'm not going to sing Summer Lovin' for you, but it came in my mind real quick.
And isn't it your retiree place as well? A lot of people retire to Florida.
Oh, and Canadians snowbird down there. Like 95 is full of the Canadians moving south for the winter with the geese and then moving back north. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So Florida books. Narelle, you want to start?
I will. So I'm going to talk about Look for Me by Jan Thompson, which is her Vacation Sweetheart series, book 4. Now, I didn't think I'd read any books in this series before I read the book, but I actually have read books in this series because as I'm reading it, I'm recognizing characters.
Oh, cool.
So I think she may have had some earlier books in some boxes, the multi-author boxes.
Yes, she has.
And it's very well possible.
And it's off, And so I've read it there, but of course that's not trackable, if that makes sense, unless you actually write down what you've read in what box. And that's just way too complicated for me. Yes, but this one ticks the Florida box because it's set in Key Largo in Florida. And it's a second chances romance with a suspense thread in the story, but it's not a romantic suspense. So the romance is front and center, but there is a suspense thread and there is some danger in the story. So if you don't like any suspense, it may push you a little bit. So it's not romantic suspense, but it definitely has that suspense element and suspensey things.
When I read that one, I could still read it in the evening before bed.
Okay, well there you go. It's got the Valerie tick of approval, so it must be fine.
Valerie's head can still hit the pillow. It's all good.
Yeah. Yes. So with this one, you've got Whren and Martin are the main characters. And 4 years ago, they were in a relationship in Savannah, Georgia. So they appear in Jan's earlier books. But at that point in time, when they were in a relationship, they weren't Christians. And then Martin became a Christian and realized that he couldn't continue the relationship he currently had with Whren unless they got married. And she wasn't a Christian and didn't understand why anything had to change and why they had to get married. And so everything kind of blew up and she took off. And fast forward 4 years, she is just an absolute train wreck. She has just made bad decision after bad decision, got involved in relationships that haven't been helpful. And she's now in Key Largo working in a chocolate shop. She's pregnant. She has a 3-year-old and she's in the witness protection program.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So, and she's also, while she's been in Key Largo, has become a Christian. So about a year earlier before the story starts. So it's really interesting because a lot of the time we don't really see I think some books sort of avoid the unequally yoked and avoid looking at, well, what happens if you've got two people and they both don't share their faith, and what does that mean? And it also realistically looks at how characters who aren't trying to live a moral Christian life will go down rabbit trails into very unhelpful places as well. So it doesn't hide sort of those realities of life either in this book. So I really appreciated the realism and the honesty in terms of the backstory and how that all was unpacked as well. So that's where we start with the book. And so what happens is that he has been looking for her, Martin has, and he finally, through a PI, tracks down where she is, but she's using a different name. And so he turns up, and
he can track her down. So
I was like, if the PI can find her, their witness protection is terrible.
Yeah. So he's able to find her, and so when he turns up, though, that really puts her in more danger.
Yeah.
And so she's like, you can't be here. We can't talk about the past. You need to leave. And he doesn't understand because he hasn't know what's happened. I'm glad that's
put front and center that.
Yeah.
And not just like, oops.
Oh, no. There's no oops about it. Yeah. But it took him a long time to track her down as well. It wasn't easy. And so she has all this baggage, of course, from what's happened in the 4 years since they split. And I really appreciated the strong faith element in the story as well, and how they really had to rely on God and rely on their faith to survive some of the things that happen in the story. So I really enjoyed it. So if you're looking for something in Florida that highlights, you're at Key Largo, you're in the Florida Keys, and a lot of the things I associate with Florida were in the book as well. So I enjoyed that one.
I like that about Jan's books, that the faith thread is front and center.
Always. Yes. Any book of hers is going to be that.
No apologies. This is a straight up Christian romance.
Yeah. I like that too. And now I have Kokomo stuck in my head. So I'm just going to go from Grease to the Beach Boys. So since it was in Key Largo, we'll see what.
Oh my goodness. Can I talk about a book instead?
Florida brings in all the tunes. Yes, Valerie, what song will you trigger, Valerie, with your next
Four Little Blessings by Merrillee Whren. What's the song, Beth?
Well, I'm thinking like One Little, Two Little, Three Little Indians now, but
Four Little Blessings.
That's right.
Wade Dalton has moved to Florida, as many people do apparently, to coastal Florida for a change of pace. And he's looking for a quiet change of pace. Thank you very much. Okay. Which is ruined when the house next door becomes inhabited by a young woman with 4 children. Now, she is the children's aunt. Okay. And so she's much too young to have these 4 children, and she's inexperienced with them. But their mother is, did I write down what the mother? Oh, I can't remember. There's a reason. There's a reason she has her nieces and nephews. Okay. And so she's like up to here, literally, not just in coastal waters, but in parenting these children and stuff. And Wade keeps getting kind of dragged in. And as you know, Florida has hurricanes and different things, which apparently are also, we should have mentioned, not every place can have these romantic things like hurricanes.
Hurricanes, yes.
So Florida's special that way as well. Cassie's quite a bit younger, like 12 years younger. So if we're ever doing an episode on age gap, then here's my pick. And he really shouldn't be attracted to her. But her driven but compassionate nature appeals to him. And then, of course, his 4 little matchmakers.
Excellent.
Who think that this couple should be a couple. And so.
Is one of them a 5-year-old?
I do not remember.
Okay.
It's been a couple of years since I read this book, but it was actually, I think, the very first one I thought of when we were in Florida. I'm like, oh, Merrillee has a book set in Florida. Let me go find that one again. Excellent. So I did not reread it because time, life,
fair.
Stuff.
Fair. Mine is also an older one, actually from 2015. It's Crazy Little Thing Called Love by Beth Vogt. And it was the first one I thought of when we got to Florida. It's on the Gulf Coast, so up in the Panhandle. And Vanessa had eloped sort of crazily with her high school boyfriend. And they just, they were two high school kids in love and thought the world was their oyster. So they eloped, and then life got hard. And so they got divorced very quickly. And so now she is planning a destination wedding to this more suitable guy. And the destination wedding is going to be in the Gulf Coast of Florida. But then hurricanes, because they do, right? Her ex, who is Logan, is a storm chaser now. So he comes into town chasing this hurricane, and they end up sheltering together from the storm. So, and all the past comes back and all of this. So, it's very, very well written. I will admit I had a few troubles with it when I read it and when I refreshed my memory about it, because I do.
But I know what.
You know why? Yeah.
Right, I don't like, because she's engaged and almost ready to marry one guy and falling for somebody else.
Yeah. I don't like cheating. And in many ways, like, Beth tries very hard to explain why it's not cheating. She makes the fiance, he's not a great guy kind of thing, but it hits me wrong in a couple of places. So if that is an issue for you, this would not be the one to read. But it is a cute story. And the two of them, like Vanessa and Logan, you're like, why did they ever break up? Because they clearly are perfect for each other. So in that respect, it's you want them to get together, but then you kind of hate yourself a little bit because of that.
And it's a love triangle as well. By definition, it's a love triangle. Yeah.
Because she's trying to make up her mind which way to go.
Yeah. Maybe that's and we know how I feel about love triangles. So
no, tell us how you feel.
I love them so much. No, don't love them. So
they're very hard to avoid being cheating stories, because if the fiance is really that awful and bad and terrible, like, she's an idiot to be with him in the first place. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think they can be hard stories for authors to get right and hard stories for readers to connect to, because you're reading about in the head of this heroine who's, you're thinking, why on earth is she with him? Like, do I really want to stay with this story if she's going to keep making poor decisions? She's obviously, who you decide to marry is a major decision and not something to take lightly. And that's where I can get stuck. It depends on the setting, depends on the characters, depends on how it's set up. Yeah.
So it's still good. And I feel a little bad not being able to say, like, 5 stars, totally recommend, but like, that's not life, like with books sometimes. So it's still worth reading, but know ahead of time going into it that there might be some issues if you are obnoxious like me and get worked up about that.
So not for the people that dislike love triangles.
Yes, exactly. Valerie, what's your next one?
My next one is From This Moment On by Debra Clopton. Debra's known for her many, many, many cowboy series, mostly set in Texas. So this departure to a boutique resort on the coast of Florida, there are some horses. You'll be glad to know, I guess, or her readers will. It did catch my attention just because it's her, but a little different. Callie has returned home to help her family run the resort after her failed marriage. And she's, of course, as these type of heroines do, she's determined to guard her heart in the future. So she's just going to dig in, help her family out with this resort, and that will be enough for her. Grant has survivor's guilt from living through a small plane crash that took the lives of the other 2 people on board. And he has been having a lot of trouble getting past that and just like being glad that he's alive at all, really. He has come to Florida from, I want to say Texas. He was a rancher in somewhere. He's here to paint a sea life mural as a favor to his best friend, and to prove that he's functional and that his friend doesn't need to worry about him all the time anymore. He can do things, it's okay. but he has to first get on a plane to get to Florida. So this is a big issue for him because whatever, because he just barely survived one.
Yeah.
Anyways, I really enjoyed seeing this unlikely pair fall in love, and it does set up a complete series set on a Florida island resort. So that was kind of fun too. So you get your tourists and your cowboys all in one go with Debra Clopton.
Cool.
Cowboys take vacations too, I guess.
Apparently. Possibly.
Rich ones do. Anyway.
Hers just did.
Hers just did, so we're good. Excellent. Narelle.
Well, my second one and my last one is 12 Days of Snowmen by Sarah Monzon. So I won't go too much into the story because I have talked about it before. I'll let you tag on after me. I'll just mention something briefly and you can go into more detail. But I talked about it in episode 65, prior foster care main characters, because Lucy, who's the heroine, grew up in foster care and she's a foster mum. She only has 12 days left with Abby, who's the child that she's fostering, before Abby's meant to be going back to her birth mother. Mm-hmm. And so Jonathan's the hero. He works at the Living Museum in Florida with her, and they decide they're going to plan this wonderful 12 days of Christmas where there's no snow in Florida. So the whole concept of summer Christmas resonates with me. So I really enjoyed this one. But Elizabeth can continue talking about it.
It's a 1.5 in the Carrington family, so it comes between books 1 and 2. And the Carrington families are all time slips,
which is why I would have passed this by.
Yeah, but this one is not time slip.
Okay. No, it's
so
not.
CCR. Yeah, it's just modern, because it's a novella. So it is, that she didn't have time for
gotcha.
Timelines there, and Jonathan, I enjoyed seeing Jonathan because he was the book 1 of the Carrington family. The modern timeline sort of had a love triangle, but not really. The best friend was in love with the heroine, but the heroine never really looked at him that way. So it really wasn't a love triangle so much as it was unrequited love. And then she fell in love with someone else. So he was the best friend loser in that first book. So I enjoyed getting to see his happy ending with this one. And I also liked, because it's set in St. Augustine, Florida. We went to St. Augustine last year as part of a family vacation. So I actually have been to the Colonial Museum that this was taking place. So I was like, oh, I went there because it's right next to the Pirate Museum. We did the Pirate Museum, and they had a deal. If you did both, you got a discount on both admissions or something. So we did the Pirate Museum, and then we did the Colonial one. And it's a very cool little reenacting thing right there, right across from the big fort at St. Augustine. So that was kind of fun because I had been there. And so I could see it in my head a little bit better.
I didn't realize it was a real setting. It's very cool. Yeah. There you go. Things I learned.
St. Augustine, or that place is the oldest fort in North America? No, I think Montreal is it's way up there though.
It's definitely
history.
Yeah.
Maybe in the US or
might be in the US, but I know the people in Santa Fe argue that the Spanish got there first, but no, I'm pretty sure they got to Florida first, but still, yeah. It's part of the very early Spanish exploration.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it was really cute and fun. I think you hit all the other big parts. So yeah, I'd forgotten that you'd mentioned that one before, so I'm glad you looked up the episode number because
it's fine. It's fun when we talk about the same book, I think, because it then gives a different perspective.
Well, and I did love all the different ways they came up to make snowmen in Florida. And it was very creative. It's not, there was one sand snowman, which you would have to, but it wasn't 12 sand snowmen, which, if you asked me how to make 12 snowmen in Florida, I'd be like, well, we'll be at the beach every day, I guess.
Yeah.
There were some very fun and creative ideas there.
And I love the ending as well. I won't say what happened, but I did really appreciate the way the story
fine. I'll go look it up.
Yeah, the ending was fantastic.
It's very fun.
Cool. It is. All right, so that's both of our next one. Valerie, do you have another one?
Sure. Do we have time for a third?
Yeah.
The third one that I read was Sunswept by Carla Laureano. And let me start by saying this, although she is a Christian author of Christian contemporary romance, this is sweet clean, not particularly Christian in nature. I've stumbled across a few of these lately, and frankly, it kind of jolts me when it happens, but this one is clean for sure, but no Christian content. Anyway, Bailey is in, I don't even know how to pronounce this, Islamorada? Is that right? On the Florida Keys?
Yeah, I think so.
Close enough?
Close enough.
She's there for a real estate conference in which she expects to win a prestigious award in front of her ex and his new girlfriend. She books a vacation rental only to discover there's a guy in the bathroom shaving. And she assumes he's on his way out and he's just late. And he's like, oh, honey, I'm here for the week. And she's like, but it's my vacation rental. And he said, well, actually, here's the paperwork. It's mine. You need to find a different place. And it's all booked up and there's no other place to go. And it's, anyways, they decide they'll just going to have to share it. And, you know, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Zane is there to witness his ex's marriage to his best friend. So he's feeling a little as well. When neither of them can find a different rental, they decide to fake date for the weekend. So they'll each be each other's plus one. He'll go to the prestigious awards banquet with her. She'll go to his ex's wedding reception with him, and they'll, you know, help each other out. They might even be able to pull off a good time, or possibly have the beginnings of falling in love. So
I think I talked about this one on the fake relationship episode we did, because I know I have read this one and I feel like I talked about it, but that's okay. It's cute.
It was cute, you know, having been to Florida, not to this particular town. I haven't been to the Keys, and yeah, you know, vacation rental, it would be a little bit shocking, and you're like, but I paid for this.
The meet cute was very fun. With that one.
So yeah, it was entertaining, you know, with them at each other's events and different things. So
yeah. So can I ask a question? Because this is always my question with Sweet Clean. Would you say that it was Sweet Clean in terms of the characters behave like they had Christian values, but nothing's explicitly on the page? Or is it Sweet Clean more in a general market sense, where you're going to have behavior that's more consistent with what you'd see in a general market romance without anything on the page?
Without seeing it on the page? Yeah. I would say that a little more in line with what a Christian reader would expect. There were a couple of things that happened that would probably not happen in a CCR, but not in the too far realm. Yeah, for me. I
feel like this one you could easily assume that the two characters were believers, but that their faith was just not a huge part of the story.
Yeah. So I mean, they're sharing a vacation rental. Spoiler alert, they don't have sex.
Right. Well, and they don't even.
And they're not all over each other and then just pulling back either.
No. And there's not even the one bed. Like it's very quick to be someone's taking the couch. You know, it's not even hinting at, oh, well, we'll just face opposite directions or whatever. It sounds good. He's chivalrous about it, you know. So yeah, but then there are a few other things there. Like she visualizes him in the shower a little bit too long, you know, because she sees him coming out with the towel on. And so, you know, I mean, but I think anybody's going to do that if you're single and faced with a handsome man in a towel. Like if you don't think about him in the shower for a minute or two, then, you know, good for you, but you're not normal.
Where's your red blood cells?
That's right.
Yeah. Anyways, those are the three that I had for Florida. So.
And did you have another one, Narelle? You just had the two?
I only had two. I ran out of time to do any more reading or digging. I think there was a Lindy Peterson one I was going to reread, but I just can't remember. One of possibly Rich in Love. Can't remember, but I just ran out of time.
Then my third one was actually just the whole the first Finders Keepers by Sarah Monzon, the first in the Carrington family, because that is the first and the third in that series are both set in Florida. The first one, the historical one, and the modern are very much in Florida, but they also go on a boat to the Bahamas, I want to say. So they're not only in Florida. And then the third one, the historical and the contemporary are all completely in Florida. And they're good if you like dual timeline. There's two stories that interweave, one's historical, one's modern. If you like those, and I think I talked about these on our dual timeline episode. They're really good. I enjoyed them quite a bit. So cool. Yeah. And
there's others. I thought that Janet Ferguson had one, but when I looked a little deeper, it wasn't.
Okay.
Fine. I might have missed one that was still, but the one I was thinking of turned out it started in Florida, but it took place mostly in, I think, Georgia.
Yeah, I looked at that one too.
I read
The Love of Joy, I think.
Yeah, I read one for the Georgia episode, Georgia on My Mind, by
that was Rachel Houck. No,
Rachel Houck. Yes, thank you. But it's mostly in Florida. Like a lot of it is in Florida, and then a lot of it, then more is. So I was like, I don't know what to use this for because it's not in any one place.
Tragic.
So I'm like, never mind.
So do we have any books that take place like in, Disney or any particular?
Disney would be hard because
they'd slap you for it.
Yeah, they're so protective. I mean, of their intellectual property. Like you can't even say that someone looked like Tinkerbell. You have to you don't use their property. So, I mean, you could mention the big amusement park with the mouse, but I think that would be as far as anyone would go.
And one other older one that comes to mind is a Sandra D Bricker, the Big 5-0, I'm pretty sure took place in Florida. And she had some really funny contemporary romance back in the day.
Yeah.
So that would be another one for the record books.
Yep. Is the Big 5-0 a romance?
Yes.
Okay. I never read that one.
It's kind of it's a first person, I think single POV, a bit romantic comedy kind of, as she was noted for writing kind of funny. But as I recall,
Okay. Cool. All right. Final thoughts on Florida? Were those our final thoughts on Florida? Those probably were them, right?
That was them.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you for joining us at Story Chats. We'd love to hear your Florida books in the comments if you've read any of these or whatever ones we missed, because I'm sure we missed a lot of them. Leave us a note either on our YouTube channel or over on our Facebook page. If you are over on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And you can find information about the podcast at inspiromance.com/storychats if you're so inclined. And we will look forward to seeing you again next week. In the meantime, don't forget to fall in love with a good book. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.